And now, live in studio, offering you a fresh perspective, an unbiased perspective, different from those disconnected talking heads in the media. He's an author, a coach, a real estate and finance expert, and he's committed to teaching you how to win in any marketplace. Your host of the Real Estate Quarterback Show, Brandon Rhymes.
And let's jump right into this great content. And Mr. Bob Buckhorn in studio, Tampa Mayor, welcome in.
Thanks, Brandon. Good to be here.
Lots of big things going on, lots of exciting news. Every time we turn around, we see another study or statistics showing Tampa ranking as tops in its division out of the nation here. Tampa ranked number 3 best city for employment in the nation is the latest one I saw yesterday posted on your Facebook page.
To quote Alicia Keys, or to paraphrase Alicia Keys, this town is on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really an exciting time for the city. I mean, I think, and I've been around, Brandon, since 1987, involved in city government in one form or another. And I don't think there's been a more exciting time. I don't think there's been the sense of optimism and the sense of hope that exists now, the belief that our better days are yet to come. And people are pumped up. I mean, it's contagious. Folks are believing it. Capital is being invested. Our downtown is just exploding. The demand for residential living downtown far outstrips the supply. And so it's a good time for us, and we need to keep the pressure on and keep working every day to move that ball down the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the football analogy there as a former USF football player and quarterback on the Real Estate Quarterback Show team here. That's kind of our mantra around here. And yeah, exactly. And before the show, we were talking about all the development that's planned for downtown and a lot of the growth that we see in Tampa International Airport being ranked number 1. There's another study that I saw here, Florida Travel and Life blog ranked 2 Florida cities in the top 5, Orlando and Tampa, U.S. cities for relocation. Orlando, they said, attributed to booming tourism and create a large job market. And Tampa was based on the beaches and baseball. Yeah. So there's a whole lot more here than beaches and baseball.
Well, but that's part of it. And, you know, there is a method to this madness. I mean, one of the reasons that we have been so aggressive, particularly in our downtown core, is we're competing for intellectual capital. We're competing for the bright young millennials that can go anywhere in the world that they want to live, because their intellectual capital is contained not in their backs and their shoulders like my father's generation. It's contained in their heads. And
right.
So they can do what they do anywhere in the world. They can write code in Mumbai just as easy as they could write it in Tampa.
Man, yeah, I agree. And I've got an article here from the Florida Realtor Association that was emailed to me. It says millennials key to stronger housing recovery. And that's so true. And you touched on that as well with that generation of up and coming, the spending that they represent. And, yeah, what a great place to live, work, and play. Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, and sometimes people even lump in Sarasota in the mix with that, Bradenton, Sarasota, with this whole region. What a great place to live, work, and play. And you know, I'm reminded every day, especially during the summer when sometimes we say it's a little too hot out there. But, you know, we got all the folks up north that want to relocate down to Tampa. And, man, we live in arguably the greatest city in the nation.
Well, I mean, certainly I think so, but one would expect the mayor of Tampa to say that. But I think what you touched on, Brendan, was important, and that is we compete as a region. I mean, I'm not competing with St. Pete. I'm not competing with Orlando. I'm not competing with Clearwater. We're competing as a region, and we are far stronger together as a region.
Right.
We're more competitive as a region because these other areas that we're competing with, whether it's Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, or Austin, Texas, or Nashville, or San Diego, they pool their resources as a region too. We complement each other as a region. You know, what downtown St. Pete has complements Tampa. If Pinellas County gets a corporate relocation, half of the executives are going to live in South Tampa. So we're all going to benefit together. And so I think what you will see over the next couple of years is less of that harsh partisan rhetoric, less of that you know, discriminating against people based on who lives in Pinellas, who lives in Hillsborough.
Right.
Looking at the bridges not as barriers but as conduits to cooperation. And so I think certainly from the mayors of those respective areas, whether it's Mayor Cretekos or Mayor Kreisman in St. Petersburg, I mean, we are all in this together. We've been friends for 20 years, and we're going to remain friends after this, but we are going to work together and not divide the region based on, you know, where you live.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Mr. Cretekos, I asked him to call in and kind of bridge those gaps between Tampa and Clearwater here. Can you hear us, Mr. Cretekos?
Good morning or afternoon, and hope everybody had a happy 4th of July yesterday.
Yes, absolutely, and thanks for calling in and kind of bridging the gap there between Tampa and Clearwater. Tell us what you're seeing over there. What's the latest happenings on in the Clearwater area?
I just want to thank Mayor Buckhorn for his leadership in the whole Tampa Bay area. We've been working together on so many different projects over the years, and jokingly, I'm sorry I didn't get to see him dance at Bollywood, but
you didn't miss anything, Mayor.
On that, we worked together on the RNC convention, and it has been great for all of Tampa Bay.
Well, Mayor Cretekos and I spent a lot of time together back in the early 90s when he was the district director for Representative Bill Young, the late Bill Young, and MacDill Air Force was on the chopping block. I was the assistant to the mayor of Tampa at the time, and our two offices spent probably 3 years, George?
Oh, at least.
Working to make sure that MacDill got off that closure list, and that has
it's benefited the entire area.
Oh, it's a $5 billion economic impact, and would not have happened had it not been for his late boss, Congressman Bill Young, who was just a champion on behalf of MacDill, even though MacDill wasn't even in his district.
Right.
But saving that base and the tens of thousands of jobs associated with it and all the impact from the retirees, that base is the largest economic engine in the Bay Area. And
I believe it.
It's thriving now because of SOCOM and CENTCOM. But there was a very serious risk that base was going to be closed in the 90s.
And it was interesting during that time, just to reminisce, I remember we were sitting at a meeting at MacDill, and the congressman had said, you know what, we can sit around a table and see all the charts, but we really need to get out and take a look at what we've got here. And so, Bob, I don't remember if you got to go on the bus. I didn't, because I didn't have the clearance.
No, we didn't have the security clearances.
Right. But remember they took the bus around, and an hour later they came back, and the committee had smiles on their faces like they had seen heaven. You know?
And this was the actual base closure commission members who would travel around the country to the bases that were slated to be closed. And because of the secretive nature of Special Operations Command in particular,
right.
No one really knew what was going on there. Obviously,
what was going on, exactly.
The special operators knew, but certainly the Congress didn't know, and these base closure commissions didn't know.
And that's what made MacDill so different from the rest of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tampa, with being a major player in the defense and a military town, it's interesting. We talked about the VA, and we've seen some of that in the news, and I'd like to get your insights on that. Mr. Buckhorn, let's go with you first, and Mr. Cretekos, we'll get your follow-up on the VA stuff going on.
Well, I think it's sad. I'm obviously not privy to all of the details, but certainly if 1/10 of what I have read is accurate, it is doing a disservice to the men and women that served our country, to whom we have both a moral obligation as well as a legal obligation to provide health care to them for the remainder of their life. Now, the VA system is a big, cumbersome, unwieldy system, and clearly it has some challenges in terms of service delivery, in terms of the care that the veterans are getting. I think the president is taking the right steps in terms of bringing in someone new from the private sector.
Right.
Just announced a new VA secretary who used to run Procter & Gamble, who was not an Obama supporter, who was a Romney supporter, but a West Point grad, and clearly someone who's used to large companies and making sure customer service is at the top of its game. It's been a problem for a long time. Mm-hmm. It didn't just happen. It's been, the rust has accumulated over decades.
Right.
And it would seem to me that it needs a good, swift kick in the backside.
Yep.
And bring some folks in there who are used to not only dealing with customers, but providing first-rate health care to a population that desperately needs it and that we owe it to.
Absolutely. That's one of our, my dad was an MP in the military, and we have an alignment with HomestringUSA.org in which we give away a mortgage-free property for every 25th to 30th property we sell through Homestrong USA, HomestringUSA.org. We give away a mortgage-free property to a veteran or active military family, and all of us around here. And I know Tony with Integrity Financial Services, right. You guys got some specific programs that you kick in extra dollars as a listing agent. I'll rebate money back to our veterans. So it's a big deal when you talk about mistreating our veterans. veterans.
Well, and particularly given the nature of the conflicts that we've been fighting for the last decade and the types of wounds that occur.
Mr. Cretekos, you want to add anything on that?
The mayor's right on. We're fortunate in the Tampa Bay area that we've got the Haley Hospital and the Young facility here in Pinellas servicing our veterans. And they have some cutting-edge technologies at both of these hospitals that treat these veterans who are coming back that the mayor was speaking about. I was talking with Representative Jolly yesterday, and the subject came up about the Veterans Care, and he had recently had an open house at his office here in Seminole. And interestingly, he relayed to us that a lot of the veterans who came out actually came out to say, hey, they are still getting good care at the facilities here in the Tampa Bay area.
Right.
There are problems, yes, but the type of care that they're getting, they're very satisfied with for the most part. And I think Representative Jolly put it in the right way. Maybe we need to take the politics, the Democrats and the Republicans, out of the VA and just work on solving the problems that Mayor Buckhorn was identifying.
Yeah, there's a private sector model that can fix this.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, we just need to recognize that, number one, we do have an obligation to these folks. Number two, you can't shortchange them come budget time. I mean, there are needs out there, and equipment and manpower and personnel have to be accommodated. But for-profit hospitals can run efficiently that are of significant size. And so, I mean, I think we need to bring some of that private sector thinking to the VA model.
Yeah, and that's a fine line, and just generally speaking as well, when you look at local decisions, there was a gentleman named Benjamin Barber that did a TED Talk, and it was about why mayors should rule the world. And we're kind of talking about that in the green room before the show. But when you have the decisions sometimes being made by bureaucrats in D.C. that should be made more on a local level, and not only with the VA, but you could look at the different types of I hate to say the word scandal, but we've been littered in the media with all of these different issues, major issues, and I sometimes call it alphabet soup. You had the NSA, the IRS, you had the VA, so there's all these different factors out there, but it seems like a little bit more local control is the way to go.
Well, I think Mayor Cretekos would agree with me. There may be those who think mayors should run the world and would do a better job, but when we go home to our wives and our kids, we don't run anything.
Right.
Certainly in my house, since I have all girls in my house, I don't stand a chance. But, and George and I have talked about this. Being the mayor of a big American city is the best job in the country.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you run for office not to be but to do, go be a mayor. Because as a mayor, you get to do things, and you get to shape a city and leave a legacy, and you're not burdened by partisan politics necessarily.
Right.
I mean, I'm a registered Democrat. I'm proud of being a Democrat. But I don't govern based on what the Democratic Party tells me.
Right.
I govern based on what's good for the city, and George does the same way. George is,
but not only good for the city, Bob. You're doing it good for the area, and just from our standpoint over here, I want to thank you for your support of the Greenlight Pinellas initiative and helping us realize that transportation, especially for the millennials that y'all were talking about before I arrived, how important it is that, they don't look to a car anymore to get around town or to get from Tampa to Clearwater or St. Petersburg.
Well, George, that's great. Yeah, we are all in this together for sure. And I think if you took the model of governance by mayors and applied it to the role of governor or of president of the United States, this country would be a whole lot more efficient, a lot more effective if we took that partisanship out of this. And
more from Mayor Buckhorn and Cretekos when we come back. And Michael Jordan's 40th floor penthouse sold by X for $3.2 million. You're listening to the Real Estate Court. The affordability of Tampa Bay, that's always mentioned in these surveys. And so let's jump right into it. Mr. Buckhorn, downtown, Channel Side, what's going on down there?
Well, I think what Tony said in terms of executing on the fundamentals is important. And it's good to know that the Tampa Bay area has led the state in job creation in the last year, and I don't think that's going to change over the next couple of years. I mean, we've diversified our economy. We realized after this recession that you can't build subdivisions for people that don't exist.
Right.
It's a flawed economic model, and it will never work. And so by changing Tampa's DNA and broadening our base, I think we've secured our economic future to a much greater degree. But downtown's on fire, Brandon. I mean, it is. I mean, if you think about what's occurred there over the last 3 years and the vibrancy of the downtown environment and the number of developments that have occurred down there, I mean, just think about what's going to happen over the next couple months. 40 years, 6 mayors in the making. The Riverwalk will be completed by January of this year.
Wow.
Finally, 2 miles of uninterrupted stretch of Riverwalk running from the Tampa History Museum all the way around to the Strass Center. We just opened last week the old federal courthouse that had been abandoned for a decade. We put out an RFP, got a developer from Memphis to come in and restored that federal courthouse, which was the most historic structure in downtown Tampa. And it's now reopened as a Le Meridien 130-room boutique hotel. It is spectacular.
Wow.
You know, it still has the marble from floor to ceilings in the halls, you know, the courtrooms, and has the high ceilings. I mean, it is a beautiful restoration of a great old building. Richard Gonsmart will open up in August of this year, the Eulalie restaurant on the Hillsborough River up in the Tampa Heights area. We did another RFP. That building had been abandoned for 15 years. Richard came in. He's going to open up a steakhouse and an oyster bar. We dug the spring out. The spring there used to provide a lot of water to the city in the 1940s. So we dug the spring out. The spring is now bubbling up crystal clear. We put 2 ponds out there and redid the entire park right next to it. So you will be able to sit on the Hillsborough River, have a great meal. The park has splash pads. We'll have a dog park. It will have a band shell. We'll program it just like we do Curtis Dixon Park, and it will drive activity on the north end of the Hillsborough River. You've got the Aloft Hotel, which will open up this July at the intersection of Ashley and Kennedy. Again, a building that had been abandoned for a decade. A local developer came in. That will be another 120-room boutique hotel. You've got 5 new residential towers that are slated to come out of the ground in the next 12 months. 2 on Harbor Island, 2 in Channelside, and 1 down by the Strass Center for the Performing Arts. And so then you've got Jeff Vinnick and Channelside and the 20 acres around the Forum that Mr. Vinnick owns. If you master plan that correctly, and obviously Jeff has the resources to be able to do this, you master plan that correctly, you can create an entire entertainment district in downtown Tampa with the Forum as the focal point, anchored on one end by Channelside Plaza and at the other end by the Tampa Convention Center. There will be a new hotel that will be constructed there on the east lot that Mr. Vinnick owns between the Marriott Waterside and the parking deck. And so I think over the next 5 years, if we continue to focus on the river as the center of our downtown, not the western edge, that we're going to radically transform what downtown looks like. And 10 years from now, you will not even recognize this city from what it exists right now. And it's going to be all positive stuff.
Sounds really exciting. Yeah, we're real excited to see that, and just the jobs that are coming in town. We heard of Amazon some months ago with lots of jobs coming, lots of job creation, and affordability is still there. You've got the diversification in jobs. I know that was big. With USF had granted some land in another deal that I read a couple weeks ago, and yeah, just what a great place that we're developing here, and all the downtown movements. And Mr. Cretekos, of course, you guys are voted time and time again as #1 beach in the nation, and you've got the dolphin story going on in the movies, and what else are you seeing over there in Clearwater?
That movie is going to be released in September. They've upped the date to early September now. But listening to Mayor Buckhorn, I'm salivating, because of all the growth that's going on in downtown Tampa and the area. We're a little behind, but we've got the aquarium that's scheduled to come to where the City Hall site is, a new aquarium. We've renovated the Capitol Theater. It's being managed by Ruth Eckerd Hall, and just about every performance there is being sold out. We're excited that we're getting some new affordable market rate housing built in our Prospect Lake area of downtown. This is going to become like Tampa and St. Petersburg. We're looking to develop a technology centers. In fact, we're going to start calling, the Tampa Bay area and Clearwater in particular Silicon Beach, because we're hoping that we can get into that area of high-tech programs for our employment base to help diversify it.
You know, I was convinced for months that Winter was actually Mayor Cretekos in a dolphin suit.
That's
Well, thanks there, Bob. You know.
But, you know, they really have...
It's a little too... my line on that is, Brandon, that, you know, it's hot in July in Florida, but in Clearwater we have winter 365 days a year.
There you go.
There you go.
And that really has...
So Mayor Buckhorn's accusing me of walking around in a dolphin costume now.
I give you credit, whatever it takes to get the job done, right,
Absolutely.
Mayor?
As you said, that's what makes the job fun.
And some interesting stories we want to touch on. We've got the Citizens Insurance Corp Board approves 2015 rates. So this is out of Orlando, Florida Association of Realtors. It says Citizens Property Insurance Corp Board of Governors on Wednesday approved a 2015 rate package that reflects an overall average 2.9% statewide decrease for personal residential policyholders. Single-family homeowners will see an average drop of 3.2% for the coming year under a slate of rate recommendations that must be approved later by the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation. So, Tony, let's get your response on that and Citizens Insurance Corp Board, you know, reducing those rates for the homeowners. I think it was, and there's some other factors there as well.
Absolutely. Mayor Buckhorn and I were just talking. You know what? When competition comes into the backyard, everybody stops and looks and listens. So even something as large as their Citizen has and as the foothold in Florida, there are a ton of new residential insurance companies coming in into Florida, both on the property hazard side and also the flood insurance side. We're seeing an average drop in rate. And I believe it's just solely related to, well, you know, we've been lucky. Let's face it, we've been lucky for several years now, not having a major storm, hit our area or, for the most part, areas of Florida. So that's helped as well. But competition's the number one driver, and I think Citizens taking notice that a lot of folks are switching policies, and that's probably one of the biggest driver in that decrease there.
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor.
Well, we're heading into hurricane season, and let me take an opportunity to remind people to get your plan together.
Absolutely.
Right. Sign up for Alert Tampa, and we can send you alerts as to what the weather's doing out there. But the issue of the insurance, particularly areas that are flood prone in this state, and we've all lived through, and we were talking earlier about the whole flood insurance debacle and how Washington screwed that up so badly, and put a lot of potential sales at risk and potential home buyers at risk of losing their house because of the cost of flood insurance. To know that Citizens is dropping the rates, I think, is directly attributable to the influx of new policy providers coming into the state. Competition absolutely is a great thing. Citizens was an insurance agency of last resort for many years, and they were there to fill a purpose, and They did fill that purpose.
They did.
And there may be a need for them, but ultimately you want the marketplace to decide where folks have those options to go to. And the more competitors that are here, the better it is for the consumers. And those consumers are us as Floridians.
Sure. Mr. Cretekos, anything you want to add on the insurance side?
No, but before we run out of time, I want to apologize to you guys again for not being able to get to the studio. And, Brendan, you have to do me a favor. You have to give Lorraine a big hug for her birthday because I think she celebrated probably her 29th birthday on Thursday.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, okay. Lorraine Chula, one of our executive producers, happy birthday, happy belated, and thanks for doing such a great job for us. So, yeah, that's great. And also I want to jump over to, we talked a lot about business and insurance and economics here, but more to the human side. And we've got, as a father here, and we want to talk about that work-life balance and just kind of want to question kind of a roundtable discussion here. And real happy to announce, too, as well, that we've confirmed Coach Tony Dungy going to be on the show in August. And, he's started this program called All Pro Dad at my daughter's school. She goes to a Christian school in Pinellas County. And, the question is, how do you balance the personal time, family life with your busy job? And we'll start off with Mr. Buckhorn.
Well, I mean, there couldn't be anybody better to talk about that than Coach Dungy. I mean, he is not only a great coach, he's a world-class human being, and we're lucky to have him in the Bay Area. It's not without its challenges, Brandon. I mean, when you're the mayor of the 53rd largest city in America, you're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you never really get away and get off. But I'd rather be a great dad and a mediocre mayor. I intend to be great at both, but if I have to choose, I need to be a great dad first. As many people know, I have 2 small children. I have my wife is a practicing OBGYN, so her schedule is just as difficult as mine.
Yep.
And it's just the way we live. I mean, we don't have a choice. It's what we do.
Yep.
And we manage. But we also try to make sure that we are there for the kids to attend the swim meets and the school plays and all the things that dads and moms should do. Granted, my life is a little bit different with security and all the things that come with being the mayor. And so I try and take them with me to as many things as I possibly can to make sure that they get exposed to the fact that not every kid in this city or this country is lucky enough to live in South Tampa, to go to a great school, to have a great mom and dad that work, that there are a lot of kids that need their help and our help, and they get to see that in no uncertain terms.
Sure. Yeah, and it seems these days, too, we've got the Twitter and the Facebooks and all these different things pulling at our time, and it's so it's so easy to push them off sometimes, and it is a tough work-life balance. Mr. Cretekos,
let me just add something to there that Mayor Buckhorn didn't mention, how grounded he is and how much he cares for his family. A couple Saturdays ago, he was driving over at 6 o'clock in the morning over here to Clearwater because his girls had a swim meet to go to. And, hats off to you, Mayor Bob. Thank you so much for being a leader, not only in the community, but also for our families. Because, one of these days, and I love telling this when I'm meeting with students in our schools, Brandon, is that one of these days, one of these kids is going to get to be a mayor or a congressman or maybe even a president.
Yep.
And we have a responsibility to them to show them how they can be a leader and still have a family and participate in the community and to give back. And that's what Mayor Buckhorn is doing. That's what I'm trying to do, and I think every elected official is trying to do.
Well, something, George, I think both of us realize, certainly I do, that my day as mayor is going to end someday. I mean, I'm not mayor for life.
Right.
I've been hired for 4 years, and, if I'm lucky enough to get a second term, it will be a total of 8 years. But I'm a dad and a parent for life.
Right.
And so long after the accolades and all the stuff that goes with being the mayor is over with, I'm still going to be dad to 2 little girls, and I better darn well do a good job at it. Now, I'm a human being, and I'm going to screw up, and there's no manual for parenting, and I won't get it right all the time. But it won't be for lack of trying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Bob, I think that's what's neat about both of us having grown up in the area. I like to go back home to Tarpon every now and then to remind me that, hey, I'm still a kid, and I have a responsibility. And as you say, I was George before I became mayor, and after I'm mayor, I'm going to be George again. And like you were Bob first, now you're Mayor Bob, and pretty soon you're going to be Bob again,
Tony.
Well, when approaching the July 4th holiday, take some time to reflect that we're all blessed that we're here for the sacrifice of the men and women that protect this country, and many of those are our sons and our daughters. And we have to remember that those folks are, coming back home and they're needing our help now as they've helped us for many years. You guys are so right. The work-life balance is so difficult, and I'm glad to hear both mayors say, their fathers first, and that's the number one priority. And just looking at the amount of information available on the media today, boy, you've got to make sure you're grounded at home first, because one day they're going to be the mayors. They're going to be the policemen and the firemen, and boy, those days are shortly approaching. So it's a great time to be a dad myself, and I'm fortunate to have a great family structure.
Absolutely. Another great show.
Thanks for listening to my daddy's show. Have a good day.